Hello, welcome to Baroque Basics with Claire Duff. In this video I'm talking about how to hold a Baroque violin. This is part 2 where I'm giving advice for aspiring Baroque violinists today. So I hope that part 1 was a helpful starting point to exploring how violinists in the 17th and 18th centuries played. Do read up more and check out the sources for yourself so that you can make your own well-informed decisions instead of just copying what other Baroque players do these days. No doubt you noticed in the paintings in part 1 that the Baroque violins had no chin rests or shoulder rests, as these were not invented then. The violin is lovely and light without all that apparatus, and the instrument resonates more freely without things clamping down on the sound. But while they didn't have shoulder rests or chin rests, you would have noticed how they wore clothes which had a lot of material around their neck and shoulder area, which presumably could help to raise the violin if needed. So let's start with playing the violin low. Playing the violin low can help to get a feel for the earlier style of violin playing, which was much more closely related to folk fiddling than to modern day conservatoire playing. The Baroque violin has a thicker, chunkier neck to a modern violin. The modern violin neck became more slender in order to facilitate easy movement up into the higher positions and back down again, whereas here it's much thicker. So you'll notice that when you're holding the Baroque violin down low that this chunky neck on a Baroque violin suits this hold really, really well. You will also notice that you won't choose to move out of first position unless you really have to. So playing through some of your Baroque repertoire like this might help you to question the more modern fingerings of constantly changing positions in order to avoid too much string crossings. Here you'll avoid shifting unless absolutely necessary. You will choose to do some extensions into second position. Remember to play open strings often and enjoy the resonating sound of open strings, but still, of course, you can avoid open strings whenever it doesn't suit musically or technically. You will probably also feel that your constant modern vibrato doesn't fit here. It is still possible to do vibrato in this position, but it will be different and it will be a conscious decision, so it will help to break the habit of automatic, unconscious vibrato. As mentioned in my bowing videos, practicing in this position can really help your bowing too. Now let's move to playing chin off, but with the violin resting above the collarbone. When you're playing in a Baroque orchestra or chamber group, keep reminding yourself to lift your chin off at your violin and have a look over and smile at your colleagues. You will really enjoy this new feeling of having your head and neck free. For descending from high positions, you'll need to learn a new technique for shifting. Your thumb needs to become more independent of your fingers. So when descending, you first move your thumb back, then your fingers. So thumb goes first, then your hand. Make sure the scroll of the violin doesn't go too low, otherwise when you're descending there's a danger it could fall. So you keep the scroll nice and high, and you can also sort of toss up the violin a little bit while shifting. This also helps to prevent it from falling. If you don't want to play completely chin off, you can of course rest your chin whenever you are shifting positions, resting it either on the right side or the left side of the violin. So without a modern chin rest and a shoulder rest clamping down on the instrument, the Baroque violin is free to resonate more fully. This is wonderful for the sound, but don't forget that we also want our bodies to be free from tension in order to create a beautifully resonant sound. There's no point in playing a Baroque violin removing all the modern day apparatus if we just replace it with more tension and holding in the body out of fear of the violin dropping or for it feeling unstable. So the most important advice I can give today is to work on your own alignment and your own points of balance in your body while working out how to hold the violin. I would strongly recommend receiving lessons in body mapping, Feldenkrais or Alexander technique, or all of the above, to help you to play with freedom and ease. If you're standing, check out how you are standing. Are your feet grounded into the ground? Is your pelvis in alignment with your ribs and your head? Notice how you're breathing. If you're sitting, check if your feet are grounded on the floor. if your sitting bones are rooted into the chair. How is your pelvis tilted? How is your spine? So you're becoming aware of your own skeletal structure. Try to keep your head resting in balance as you play. Once your head, which is very heavy, don't forget, is out of balance, it makes your arms much heavier and more awkward to move, and it really puts everything else out of balance. Try this just out of curiosity. If you hang your head down and then try lifting your arms up into a hugging position, you can feel how heavy your arms are, and it can feel a bit awkward. Now, just take a moment to get your head in balance above your spine. Just see if it's resting in a nice position. Now that your head is in alignment, now raise your arms. Feel how light they are. They just sort of automatically float up, and then you're in a lovely playing position. And you can move your head towards your violin, but your head is resting on its spine. So if you are putting your head out of alignment every time you play, and if you do this or something like that, you are causing a lot of strain and potential injury for yourself, and you are limiting the quality of sound you can produce. It is incredible how much the sound of your playing improves once you are in good alignment. So another tip is, don't try to aim to get one perfect fixed position. First of all, there isn't one perfect fixed position anyway, and secondly, ironically, if you try to get one position for yourself, you'll fix it and that'll cause some tension. So you want your violin hold to be stable and balanced, but fluid. There's always going to be some movement. I just thought I'd talk a little bit now about how I hold the violin. I studied Baroque violin with Monica Huggett and Pavlo Besniusiuk in the Royal Academy of Music in London. And then I learned the chin-off technique when I was studying with Lucy van Daal in the Conservatorium van Amsterdam. While I enjoyed the open sound of the violin, I missed the security that a chin resting on the violin gives. In fast semiquaver passages, the violin would wobble a little bit, and I never completely mastered the left-hand spidery chin-off shifting technique. Other colleagues who also didn't master this fully were able to subtly and quickly use their chins in moments of need and then take their chin back off. But as I have quite a long neck, my violin felt too far away for that. I'd have to do this big movement down here and again get my head out of balance. So like Prinner and Leopold Mozart that I mentioned in the previous video, I like to know that the violin is secure so that I can fly up and down positions with ease. This is really important for me when playing virtuosic solo sonatas and solo concertos of the Baroque era. So after studying with Lucy, I later put on a roll under my violin, just a little bit of chamois. I got an elastic band and I just put a roll under the violin here, and then rested my violin up on the right, had my chin on the right side of the violin, and then it meant that my head and neck were readily available. This helped me hugely and I was very happy with this, but I'm now experimenting again, where I'm taking this back off again, and I'm really enjoying the feeling of the violin really resting on this collarbone. So with this chamois, then I don't have quite the same feeling of the violin on the collarbone. Now I have it resting directly. I mean, I might have a very thin layer just in concerts to stop it from slipping, but I love this feeling of the vibrations of the violin actually going through my collarbone. The collarbone is a lovely natural shelf for the violin. Just remember that the collarbone does move, so don't think of it as a fixed shelf. It's a moving shelf. As you move your arm, your collarbone moves as well, and that's very important to allow those little subtle movements to happen. So I aim for the E string side of the violin to rest neatly on my collarbone. And I aim for a secure feeling here on this side, snug in here. I am now experimenting with adding a little bit of height just above, so that again it is easier for me to keep my head in alignment when I use my chin. I'm at the moment also getting a little magic pad. It's on its way. I've ordered it now, which will give a tiny bit of height, but it also just helps to prevent the violin from slipping in concerts. So if you don't have such a long neck, you mightn't need any padding or raising of the violin, but you probably will need some kind of material to just help prevent the violin from slipping in concerts. A lot of people use a little bit of leather chamois or this material, which is kind of gripping material that you can get in a hardware store, non-slip material. If you are attaching this chamois, I sometimes do a little hole here that you can put through the button, and then it stops it from falling down. Or you can use some elastic, or if you don't want to have anything attached to your instrument, if you want to just rest it here, I would recommend that you tuck it in to your clothes at least, so that it doesn't fall down when you're playing, because that can be distracting for you and your audience. So I would just recommend that you explore different violin holes. It's a great time to experiment with different ways of playing your instrument. And it can be really helpful to think afresh and break from automatic habits, especially if your modern violin playing has been causing some trouble or pain. This is a perfect time to question your habits. It can be really freeing to remove the contractions of shoulder rest and chin rest, and to allow yourself to play without your head fixed in one position and without your chin glued to your chin rest. So approach playing the Baroque violin with curiosity and fun, and give yourself time to experiment and explore. Whatever way you decide to hold the violin, remember to look after your own alignment and your own technique. Don't play in a position that causes pain. Work out what feels and sounds best for you, and have fun exploring.